game of a crucial September series where the Yankees are in a must-win situation for their playoff hopes.
With the postseason fast approaching, this afternoon's installment of the storied New York-Boston rivalry has been put squarely into the hands of a pair of veteran pitchers who over the last 5 years have been the game's two winningest left-handers. From Boston's Fenway Park, Fox Saturday Baseball presents a late summer AL Eastern Division showdown, the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. With just 2 weeks left to play in the regular season, the Red Sox streaking toward home field advantage with the best record in the American League, while the Yankees remain just 2 out of the second and last wild card spot, with Cleveland in the way of getting into that postseason dance. With that, we welcome you inside the broadcast booth there at Fenway Park with Tim McCarver, Matt Vasgersian. And Tim, if the Yankees are to avoid what would be just their second postseason absence in the last 20 seasons, what needs to happen starting today?
Well, the Yankees are going to need a miracle a day for the rest of the season. And they're not going to get it from their bullpen because their bullpen's been the worst in the American League for the month of September. Well, then how are they going to have to do it? You've heard it so many times. Their starting pitchers have to go deep in the game and make that bridge to Mariano Rivera shorter than it would normally be.
The team that is most exposed, the Yankees bullpen, ironically, the team they've got to face again today. The last 5 games head-to-head between Boston and New York, the Red Sox have scored 55 runs. In fact, they've been doing it to everybody.
Well, it's plain and simple as far as the Red Sox are concerned, in my view. Other than the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Boston Red Sox can beat you in more ways than any team in baseball. And with the playoffs a couple of weeks away, that's pretty big.
Time for us to take a quick break. Starting lineups and first pitcher on their way. The Yankees are living squarely in the pressure of mid-September's pennant race. Each move magnified, every loss excruciating. Meanwhile, for Boston, it's all about beards, bashing baseballs, and fun. Lineups and first pitch from friendly Fenway are coming up next. Fall feeling weekend in Greater New England, no exception here at Fenway Park. A nice afternoon for baseball. The middle game of this three-game series between the Red Sox and the Yankees. Let's get you right to Joe Girardi's Yankees starting lineup, brought to you by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. A notable late change in this lineup. We'll address it in a moment. It's Granderson, Mark Reynolds, and Robinson Cano leading off. Alex Rodriguez DHing, batting cleanup today. Vernon Wells, Lyle Overbay, and Brendan Ryan. Ichiro Suzuki and the rookie backstop J.R. Murphy round out the Yankees lineup today. The notable absence, Alfonso Soriano, a late scratch with a sore right thumb. We'll have more on that in just a bit. On the mound for the Red Sox, the 29-year-old veteran left-hander making his 31st start of the season, Jon Lester.
Bouncing back from what was a sub-normal season last year, 13-8 on the year, looking for the fifth time to go 200 or more innings. Stronger in the second half, usually he's that way, saying that the All-Star break was exactly that this year. A break gave him a chance to rest up, and he has finished strong over the last 2.5 months. A better cutter and a good changeup, says Juan Nieves, the pitching coach of the Red Sox.
Well, Joe Girardi knows that time is certainly of the essence. A two-game deficit in the wild card race with just a couple of weeks left on the regular season schedule and a couple of teams to get past. It's a real complicated math game for New York. If you look at it that way, if you want to just say win and you're in, you could do that. And of course, John Farrell has the luxury of knowing that he is in the catbird seat, the best record in the American League at the start of play this afternoon. The Red Sox have home field advantage on their mind to play for from here on out. So Jon Lester ready to go to work this afternoon. The opening pitch is brought to you by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Series opener yesterday went to the home team. The Red Sox jumped out to an early 4-0 lead. The Yankees pulled even late in the night, and then they watched it get away on Jared Saltalamacchia's grand slam home run. John Farrell's bunch finishing with 8 runs and a series opening victory.
I could not find Jared Saltalamacchia in the clubhouse, the Red Sox clubhouse this morning. I wanted to ask him if that was the hardest ball he ever hit. May have been. Can't hit it much harder than he hit that grand slam last night.
Well, I would say Jared's back is feeling fine. He was 0 for 21 before homering in St. Pete earlier this week, and then the slam yesterday. He gets a scheduled day off this afternoon as David Ross is behind home plate for the Red Sox, receiving Jon Lester, whose opening pitch this afternoon to Curtis Granderson is swung on and missed. The update on Alfonso Soriano, and this is big late news. Word just came down probably 10 minutes ago that he was a very late scratch. According to Arkan Rosenthal, with whom we'll check in a moment, Soriano apparently hurt himself, the right thumb that is, diving for a ball in Baltimore. It had been bothering him since, and today kind of waved off and said he was not good enough to start game 2 of the series. Player who's been instrumental in Joe Girardi's ability to circumnavigate the Yankees' way back into the playoff picture.
15 home runs in the last 46 games.
Granderson puts that pitch in play to first base for Mike Napoli, who flips to Lester, and the first out is in the books this afternoon. Ken Rosenthal, what further can you add on Soriano's absence here this afternoon?
Well, Matt, he is day-to-day right now, and what's interesting about this is that the Yankees, of course, lost Brett Gardner this week, probably for the season, to an oblique injury. At that time, they thought, we won't need another outfielder, we're deep enough, but right now, they're down to Wells, Ichiro, Granderson, and Zoilo Almonte.
Boy, it is not good news, Kenny, for a Yankee team that had a beat-up bullpen at the start of the series. Brett Gardner was lost in Baltimore on Thursday, and now the bad news regarding Soriano. Here's Mark Reynolds now, who was moved up to the 2-hole after the absence of Soriano was announced. Reynolds did not play in the opener yesterday. And is quickly even 1 ball and 1 strike with Jon Lester.
If there's one guy in baseball as a right-handed hitter you can put the shift on against, it's Mark Reynolds. And that's what the Red Sox have.
A noted pull hitter throughout his career, now behind the ball and 2 strikes. I don't know that you could find a matchup anywhere in baseball, Tim, where there is more defensive stunting that happens than Red Sox versus Yankees. The Yankees do it just as much as Boston, and in fact they'll do it for guys like Jared Saltalamacchia, Daniel Nava. It's not just against Big Papi and company. To our point, that's Dustin Pedroia playing to the third base side of second, and that's the second out of the inning. Let's take a look at the Red Sox defensive alignment. This is what it looks like when they're not shifting as they just were. Middlebrooks, Bogarts, Pedroia, and Napoli around the infield. Johnny Gomes gets a start in left. Shane Victorino in center. Daniel Nava in right field this afternoon. And David Ross making a scheduled start in place of Jared Saltalamacchia behind the dish. So with 2 gone now, that brings in the 5-time All-Star Robinson Cano.
Speaking of shifts, that Robinson Cano beat last night with a bunt double. First time he has bunted this year. That's right, a bunt double down the third baseline.
Part of a 4-for-4 night for Robinson Cano, a night that included a couple of runs batted in. What does a bunt double look like, you ask? Here it is. Against John Lackey early in the ballgame. And he added 3 more base hits, including a game-tying double that went away after the grand slam by Jared Saltalamacchia. And as soon as we have our discussion of shifted defense and stunting, it looks like Dustin Pedroia is playing in a beer softball league someplace at the Rover spot, and there should be a keg behind him. A chopper to shortstop. Technically, that's Xander Bogaerts playing near the third base bag. Man alive. You need a compass and a protractor to figure out what's going on early on this afternoon. Starting lineup brought to you by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. This is how John Farrell lines up Boston today. Pedroia, Victorino, and Ortiz off the top. Mike Napoli got the night off to start the series yesterday. Back out there this afternoon. Johnny Gomes and Daniel Nava in the 5 and 6 spots. Will Middlebrooks, David Ross, and rookie shortstop Xander Bogaerts rounded out for Boston. On the mound for the Yankees, looking for his 14th winner of the year, and this is 31st start of the season, the left-hander CC Sabathia. Dustin Pedroia ready to start things out for Boston. CC certainly no stranger to the lure of Red Sox Yankees as his first offering of the day misses upstairs.
One of the most self-effacing baseball players I have ever met. Says that he should be throwing the changeup more and that his off-season throwing program.
Fly ball out to right field for Ichiro.
Was a real problem starting in January. CC, after having bone chip surgery, bone chips removed from his left elbow last winter, couldn't be on his throwing program where he throws Monday, Wednesday, and Friday until January of this year. And he says he thinks that is one of the reasons that he does not have the strong left arm like he normally has. And this offseason is going to be a lot different. He's starting that 3 times a week throwing program in November, not January.
Statistically, it has not been a typical CC Sabathia back of the baseball card season. As Shane Victorino stands in now, and on the first pitch, lines softly into center, and there are 2 quick outs for CC this afternoon. Let's take a look at the defensive lineman before we get back to Sabathia. This is without Soriano, who again was a late scratch just before game time. Vernon Wells moved from right to left. Vernon was thinking about playing right field today until the injury. Ichiro had the day off until Soriano was not good to go. He takes over in right field.
You know, one of the interesting things, Matt, is J.R. Murphy behind the plate. It's his first major league start. Obviously his first start for the Yankees. He's catching one of the elite pitchers in the game in CC Sabathia. And he is introducing himself almost literally to every Red Sox player coming up to the plate.
Making a first ever major league start for a storied franchise against their most steadfast rival in the middle of a pennant race. A ball and a strike to count to David Ortiz, who had a couple of base hits yesterday, a pair of doubles along with an intentional walk and being hit by a pitch. There's the cliff notes on J.R. Murphy making his first ever major league start today, as we mentioned.
John Ryan Murphy. We asked Joe Girardi where the nerves would show up if they showed up early. He said, I think he's going to be all right. But Joe agreeing with us that if he did have a case of nervousness, it would show up defensively, dropping balls, balls hitting off the heel of the glove, pass balls, things of that nature.
The 1-2 to David Ortiz, a fly ball out to shallow left. Vernon Wells is there, and it's a very eventless 1-2-3 start to the ball game for CC Sabathia. To the second, Alex Rodriguez leads it off with the Yankees and Red Sox scoreless. Today's telecast is sponsored by the 2013 Ford F-150 with EcoBoost and by Taco Bell's new fiery Doritos Locos Tacos. Live Más.
No, this is not Arthur Fiedler of the Boston Pops. It is Mike Harkey, who is the bullpen coach for Joe Girardi. They're very close friends, Joe and Mike, and he is talking to bullpenners like I've never seen a bullpen coach talk to guys in the bullpen. That's serious stuff right there. We mentioned in the opening how poor the New York bullpen has been for the month of September.
Alex Rodriguez leading off the second. Meanwhile, A-Rod followed by Vernon Wells and Lyle Overbay. Rodriguez batting in the 2-hole yesterday and throwing an 0 for 3 against noted rival John Lackey in the series opener. 2 balls and a strike to count to Alex Rodriguez. As difficult a season as it's been for A-Rod, what with the PED suspension appeal and a litany of off the field distractions, when you quantify his performance after his season finally began, he has given the Yankees much more than they had previously at what was a dead position at third base.
That's a very good point.
2-2 pitch is fouled away. And regardless of what one may think about the conduct and the ethics of the PED scandal, his performance on the field this year has certainly been a big part of the storyline, with the Yankees playing themselves back into contention. A full count now, 3 balls and 2 strikes. In fact, we take it to the level, as you look at his September numbers, that what Alex Rodriguez has given the Yankees, in a very small sample size admittedly, has been better than what many teams have had at third base the last month and a half. The 3-2 pitch put in play for Xander Bogaerts, and there's 1 away.
We talked about our 4 keys to the game, at least one of them in our opening. The Yankees need a miracle a day. That's not an overstatement. And the Red Sox, they have the best record in baseball, 2 games better than the Atlanta Braves, who lead the National League East. But the Red Sox, that's very important to go for home field advantage in the playoffs. And that first team that they will face would be a wild card team.
Vernon Wells swings at the first pitch and sends a shot out to center field, handled by Victorino. 5 up, 5 down to start the afternoon for John Lester. You know, there was some question as to whether or not Shane Victorino would be out there today, given the somewhat reckless abandon with which he plays every night. It was evidenced yesterday, making a terrific running catch into the right center field gap that robbed Robinson Cano of what could have been a 2-run double. And he was wincing upon making that catch and came up a little gimpy, and it led some to believe that maybe that dicey hamstring had flared up again. In fact, it was just a cranky lower back, something that's given him trouble on and off throughout the season. So Victorino, as per usual, out there once again this afternoon as Lyle Overbay stands in and takes strike 1.
With the way Shane has played, every body part is cranky. Except his attitude.
Well, he would
if that's a body part.
I think it is with him. He would be one of a number of strong candidates when you talk about who the Red Sox most valuable player is this year.
That is really true.
Overbay lays off, and it's 2 balls and a strike. I think that's something John Farrell is most proud of. When we visited with him, he talks about his team's depth, and he points to the fact that there isn't 1 or even 2 guys that stand out above the rest as being clear-cut team MVP candidates. There's really a handful of guys that have made for this team dynamic, often used as a cliche, but the 2013 Red Sox really feel like they are a terrific team unit.
not only on the field but off the field. For the first time in a long time, the Red Sox have that presence in the clubhouse that was negated by even the owners of the Red Sox. But most recently, John Henry coming out and saying that he's the owner, of course, of the Red Sox, saying that this year emotions mean a lot for Boston.
The Red Sox will lead off with a player who has been a Yankee killer this year. Mike Napoli, 6 home runs and 18 runs batted in against New York. Only a handful of players have ever had bigger season numbers against the Red Sox biggest rival. And on a 1-year contract, Mike Napoli stands as one of the biggest bargains of the winter. He'll lead things off here in the bottom half of the second. Napoli, Gomes, and Nava. Mike did not play yesterday. Again, got a scheduled day off. And it was one that, sure, he's going to take down the stretch. But given the fact that September is his biggest month, I think Napoli wants every opportunity to swing the bat getting into the fall. He performs this time of year.
I'll say, just think back a couple of years ago with the Texas Rangers, he would have been the MVP of the World Series along with MVP of the ALCS. I guess Nelson Cruz got that award, but Napoli certainly had the Rangers beating the Cardinals in 2011 instead of the other way around. He would have been the MVP of the World Series.
But it was part of a terrific run for Napoli and the Rangers at the end of September. Remember the final weekend of the regular season against the Angels. Back-to-back multiple home run games against his former employer. And that Mark Reynolds throw goes bad. Napoli will end up at second base to open up the bottom of the second inning.
Maybe a hit and an error. Very difficult play for Reynolds. It just airmails it toward the photographer's well along the first base dugout, just beyond it. So a bad throw, certainly an error. We'll see if it's a hit and an error or an error all the way.
It is being scored a hit and an error. So a single E5 puts the leadoff hitter in scoring position now for Johnny Gomes. The bearded free agent additions of Gomes and Napoli. Napoli Gomes batting 4 and 5 in this afternoon's Red Sox order. They weren't quite as full, speaking of the beards, back in spring as they are on this day in September. The two players who have led on the field and whose antics in the clubhouse and off the field seem to lead the way as well. A ball and a strike, the ball and no strikes rather, the count to Johnny Gomes. You may have seen at the end of that little roll of highlights that we showed you about Mike Napoli, the tugging on the beard, something Tim and I witnessed kind of squirmishly last weekend. It's become the latest celebration here with the Red Sox. You've gotten well past the fist pump and the bounce and the high five. Certainly that's about as passe as it gets when you can tug on a teammate's beard to celebrate success.
You had a great question in our meeting with John Farrell, asking John if he had been teased by his teammates to wear a beard, and he said, oh, almost every day. But he has never had a beard or a mustache. Never.
It's so hard to believe. Bob Costas had a terrific line describing John Farrell's refusal to join into the Beard Club by saying it's like a member of the cast of Mad Men is managing the guys from Duck Dynasty. And that's kind of what it looks like out there. There's ball 4 to Johnny Gomes.
That is a great line.
Started in spring training, the beard tugging stuff, and it was Gomes and Napoli at the heart of it. And that doesn't even look like it's fun.
It looks sadistic to me.
Runners at first and second now for Daniel Nava.
This would not be a bad situation to lay down a bunt toward third base. We've seen Mark Reynolds throw one away. Nava, a pretty good bunter from the right side.
Indeed, bunting. And he drops it down nicely, leaving CC only one play, and that's to first base. A perfect execution to the sacrifice bunt.
Nava elects to bunt it down the first base line. They teach right-handed hitters to bunt the ball down the first base line with left-handed pitchers, because when a left-hander lets loose of the ball, he's going toward third base. So it's obviously a lot tougher to field the ball down the first base line than it would be anywhere else.
So now Will Middlebrooks in a spot where a base hit can give the Red Sox an early 2-0 advantage. Will coming off a hitless series opener yesterday, and in fact has been kept hitless in each of his last 4 games.
Brendan Ryan just told J.R. Murphy, on a ball hit hard to him, he's coming home.
First pitch is taken for a strike.
Normally you wouldn't do that with the infield back, but if the ball is hit hard, and I'll tell you, Brendan Ryan knows what he's doing at shortstop. He is a Gold Glove caliber shortstop here for the Yankees.
Quickly 0-2 to Will Middlebrooks as he gets a piece of a changeup. Well, Brendan Ryan making his 4th start as a Yankee this afternoon. Acquired by the Seattle Mariners, from the Seattle Mariners, that is, for a player to be named later. And has already made an impact. Hit a home run yesterday. Anything they get from Ryan offensively is considered a bonus.
That's true.
The 2-strike pitch to Middlebrooks on the ground for Ryan. He won't have a chance to come home as he had to move to his left on that ball, and it's 1-0 Boston.
He wanted to, though. You could see him move the body toward the right, knowing Napoli is not a fast runner. Napoli with a very good jump. Watch him look toward home and look and think, nah, can't take a chance.
Gomes advances to third on the ground ball. Credit the RBI to Middlebrooks, his 42nd of the year. And with a 1-0 Boston lead, that'll bring in the catcher David Ross. Ross with just a .202 batting average. one of 3 catchers the Red Sox are carrying at this point in the season. Ryan LaVarnway and, of course, Jared Saltalamacchia. Ross has spent a lot of years in the big leagues in the capacity he serves this season in Boston. A reminder, today's telecast is sponsored by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Sabathia's 2-0 home. Misses high. 3 balls and no strikes.
David Ross has missed 65 games because of 2 separate concussions this year. And I think Major League Baseball has to speed up research with catchers' masks in the big leagues that would filter all the way down to the little league. It is a very serious problem that cannot be addressed conventionally. I think baseball has learned that this year. It not only is the moral thing to do, but it's good business too.
I think David Ross would be in your camp on that. Anybody that's missed as much time as Dave has this year would certainly be open-minded when it comes to listening to new methodologies for protecting catchers.
So would Austin Romine, the backup catcher for the Yankees, who's suffering from a mild concussion as we speak.
Here's Xander Bogaerts now, who on the first pitch pops into shallow center. Backing off from second base is Cano to make the catch. 2 are left stranded, but the Red Sox are on the board. We'll return to Boston after a word from your local Fox station. Struck first this afternoon at home, 1-0 Boston as we start the top half of the third. Back with Tim McCarver and Ken Rosenthal, Matt Vasgersian. Brendan Ryan leads things off in the New York half of inning number 3. Bottom third of the order against John Lester, who has yet to yield a base runner so far. And his first offering to Brendan Ryan misses in tight. Ryan again in his 4th game as a Yankee. And homering yesterday, part of a 2-for-4 night for him. Counts 2 balls and no strikes. Well, that phone call or conversation came from Brendan Ryan, and it meant gaining 15 games in the standings and going into a possible postseason scenario. Quite a change from Seattle. And in fact, Ken Rosenthal, we understand that Brendan wasn't quite prepared for the news he got.
No, he wasn't. And he told me that when manager Eric Wedge summoned him to his office in Seattle, his heart started pounding. He had been sitting quietly with his laptop, just working on his fantasy football team. And Wedge had recently told the players to cool it with their fantasy football activity. Well, when he got the news, Ryan said he thought it was a prank, but it turned out, he said, it was a dream come true. He compared playing shortstop to the Yankees to being the center forward from Manchester United, the center for the Los Angeles Lakers, and here we go with football again, quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
Boy, I think all of that stuff is absolutely spot on as Brendan strikes out. There's one away in the third. And, of course, Ryan's service is needed. You just saw Derek Jeter, who, of course, is traveling with the team, despite the fact that earlier this week he decided to call it quits in 2013, really unable to contribute after a pair of ankle surgeries, and the captain wants to heal up over the course of a full winter and be back out there in 2014. Here's Ichiro now with one gone.
I was on a talk radio show, Fox Sports Radio, yesterday with Jay Moore in Los Angeles. He asked me if it was premature to say that Derek Jeter's played his last game with the Yankees. I said yes, it is, in my opinion.
It's a pop for Dustin Pedroia. And 2 away, 8 up, 8 down against John Lester. I don't know where the conversation started as to whether he'd play next year. It's probably the same people who were wondering if Derek Jeter would be in uniform for the rest of this year, even though he's not going to play. And I think when you ask those questions, you're not really clear as to the character of Derek Jeter. Yes, he's going to be in uniform, and yes, he's going to at least give it every bit he can to try to play next year. Here's the rookie catcher J.R. Murphy, who, as Tim mentioned, is making his first career big league start this afternoon. A ball and no strikes from John Lester. The mind flirts with these scenarios. You've got a kid making his first major league start today. John Lester has not allowed a base runner. Murphy's a catcher. The Red Sox haven't been thrown out trying to steal a base since August 8th. And it's this young man who has a chance to interrupt some real flow today. He's going to have to wait as Lester is perfect through 3.
No hit stuff so far.
Top of the Red Sox order when we go to the bottom of the third. David Ortiz bats third next. CC Sabathia back to work, trailing 1-0 and working against the top of the Boston batting order in the third. Dustin Pedroia, Shane Victorino, and David Ortiz. Sabathia yields the run in the second on the RBI ground ball off the bat of Will Middlebrooks. 1-0 Red Sox early on today. And a base hit for Dustin Pedroia to open the home third.
A lot of hitters you preach to control your swing. It's amazing how Dustin Pedroia has always had that unbridled swing, but he's under control somehow. Cuts down on his stroke with 2 strikes. He is a very, very good hitter.
So Pedroia aboard to set the table now for Shane Victorino, who lined to center in his first try today. And Victorino's bunting. Reynolds puts it the bare hand on it and gets Shane at first. The sacrifice works again, and there's a runner at second with 1 away.
Wonder how many times at Fenway Park early in a Yankee Red Sox game the Red Sox have sacrificed 2 consecutive innings. I would imagine not too often in their history.
So that puts a runner in scoring position now for David Ortiz. Well, that speaks to so many things. The way John Farrell runs a ball game, the very unselfish nature of the lineup, and the fact that I think if I could read between the lines a little bit, Tim, John Farrell might think that John Lester doesn't need a whole lot of help today.
That's right.
As Big Papi rips one into the opposite gap. Here's Pedroia to score the third double of the series for David Ortiz, and it's 2-0 Red Sox.
Against left-handed pitching, David Ortiz has a natural stroke against left-handed pitching the other way. It's very natural. This pitch away and just rifled to left field as the Red Sox score their second run.
One on, one off. A runner in scoring position now for Mike Napoli. 2-0 Boston. Napoli singled and scored the Red Sox first run of the afternoon in the second. And a strike to Napoli on an off-speed pitch. Quite a turnaround from last season. A potentially record-setting turnaround. And still with time left. That might be the most amazing part of this story. A 21-game improvement from last year, with 2 weeks left on the regular season schedule. I know that we tend to react to these things, Tim, kind of based on what we've seen in the real immediate sense. But when you watch the way the Red Sox have manhandled the Yankees the last 2 weekends now, it's hard to envision anybody slowing Boston down once we get to the fall and into the postseason.
Yeah, we talked about it in the opening about, other than the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Red Sox are a team that can beat you in more ways than any team in baseball. They can do it defensively. They can run the bases, 29 consecutive stolen bases. They can hit the long ball. That's been chronicled. They can pitch. Their starters, John Lackey, having a great comeback year. Their bullpen, they have one of the best closers, if not the best closer in the game.
A ball and 2 strikes, the count's at Mike Napoli.
And yet, the skeptics in Boston say, yeah, but what about the 8th inning? I'll tell you what, if I were going into the postseason and the only thing I had to worry about was a guy to pitch the 8th inning, I'll guarantee you I wouldn't be worried.
This is the Boston sports scene we're talking about. Skepticism is served with the morning cereal and newspaper.
That is correct.
2-2 to Napoli, lined into left. Ortiz will be held at third, and the fire's getting a little hotter still for CC Sabathia in the third inning.
Another hit for Napoli. That ball in the outside part of the plate. CC again from that scouting report saying he should use his changeup more often. But I'll tell you, not a word of excuses from Sabathia all year. You talk about stand-up guy. You hear that term so many times. He is among the best in that category.
Runners at the corners now with one away, and that brings Johnny Gomes back in. Well, Sabathia's starting play today at 13-12 is at least mathematically susceptible of doing something that he's never done before, and that is finish a season under 500. Statistically, it has been a different kind of year for CC Sabathia. Bring Ken Rosenthal back into the conversation, Kenny. He still gives you everything he's got. He might look a little different on the back of the baseball card. What else can you add to the discussion?
Well, Matt, for years people wondered if CC was too heavy, and now they're questioning whether he is too light, and that is the reason why he has lost velocity on his fastball. CC said absolutely not, and he said the reason he lost weight was because he lost his first cousin and his mentor, Demetrius Davis, to a heart attack last December at age 45. And Tim, remember last year when we talked to David Ortiz about losing weight, and he said he did it because he wanted to be there for his kids?
Yes.
Same thing with CC. He's married with 4 children, and he said he wanted to adopt a healthier lifestyle for them.
3-0 pitch is in for a strike to Johnny Gomes, and it's too bad that, you know, somebody loses weight and gets himself into better life shape, and then the critics are getting on you for not being as strong. I mean, there's no win with a guy like CC sometimes. Fastball velocity is down. That's been well documented throughout the course of the season. And a strike, and it makes it 3 balls and 2 strikes now to Johnny Gomes. There aren't many people, though, and CC Sabathia is 33 years old now. He's just not going to throw as hard as he did when he's 23. It's just a physical fact. Back up the middle and throw a base hit. An RBI single for Johnny Gomes, and it's 3-0 Boston. Larry Rothschild immediately surfaces out of the Yankee dugout. A conversation on the mound, and that gives us a chance to check in with Greg Amsinger back at the MLB Network studios for a Pepsi game break.
Matty, as you know, the Rangers trying to avoid their 5th straight loss, and Brandon Moss not helping them out. Hitting cleanup this afternoon for the swinging A's. That one rattles around the corner. Josh Donaldson having a great year. He comes around to score the first run of the ball game. It's Cologne against Darvish. 1-0 to score, bottom 2. Matt, Tim, back to you in Boston.
All right, Greg, thanks. The AL Western Division standings. Not only is Texas 4.5 out, but they're losing traction atop the wild card list as well. And they, for whatever reason, Tim, cannot figure out the Oakland A's. You Darvish in particular.
There are very few teams that can, but Texas in particular, since losing the last 3 games of the season last year, a year where Oakland won 94 games. They are a remarkable club, particularly the last 2 years, being guided about as beautifully as you can guide a team by Bob Melvin.
Daniel Nava with runners at first and second. 2 runs in here with only 1 away in the 3rd. A couple of runs on 4 hits this frame against Sabathia. It's a good conversation when you talk about the candidates for American League Manager of the Year. Bob Melvin, the incumbent, if you will, won the award last year. Buck Showalter's going to get some consideration, and so are the 2 skippers on the field here this afternoon. A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Daniel Nava.
As we get closer and closer to the end of the season, I think John Farrell is closing in on locking it up. Joe Girardi, a valiant year, very courageous job that he has done for the Yankees. All the injuries that continue to mount. with Alfonso Soriano out, announced 10 minutes before the game today. Brett Gardner, an oblique pull. And as Matt said, probably will miss the rest of the season.
Called strike 3 taken by Daniel Nava.
Nava thought it came around the plate, but Sabathia got the call.
Give me your 2.5 inning report card on the rookie backstop. Jared Murphy did a nice job setting up and framing that called strike 3.
Yes, he did.
Here's Will Middlebrooks now with runners aboard and 2 away. CC Sabathia would love to get through this inning given the 4 hits with only 2 runs. Fenway Park has not been a kind place for CC over the years. Since 2009, his first year as a Yankee, his career ERA in this building is 6.62. Oh, and 2 the count to Will Middlebrooks.
Ouch. 6.62.
He would be a left-hander in good company.
Yeah.
This place has eaten up some of the best left-handers in baseball over the past few decades.
One of the best performers in this ballpark from the southpaw side, Bill Lee. Back in the mid to late 70s. Spaceman, I believe, averaged 17 wins a season 4 straight years. That's hard to do for a left-hander here.
Still waiting for Bill Lee to announce his comeback. I think he's got it in him. That's yanked into the corner and fouled.
In fact, he pitched in a game in Northern California last year. I don't know what league it was. A space league, I guess. Talk about a character. I have run into Bill Lee 3 times outside Fenway Park doing games over the last 10 years. Twice he had spikes on his shoulders. Tied spikes. He was going to a baseball game. He loves to play left field and he loves to hit. Bill is, I believe, 66 years old right now, an age where you would think he would be backing off between the white lines, but not so.
There has to be room someplace for the senior league to come back. Remember the senior league?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I'd buy a ticket to see Bill Lee pitch and maybe Oil Can Boyd as the number 2 guy in the rotation.
Yeah.
Just swing and a miss. Meanwhile, from Will Middlebrooks, the current vintage of the Red Sox out in front of the Yankees this afternoon, 3-0 Boston. Telecast is sponsored by the makers of One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of Major League Baseball, and by Fox Sports 1. To find your channel, go to foxsports1.com. Very pleasant conditions for baseball or anything outdoors in the Old Town team's home ballpark. Back inside Fenway with Tim McCarver and Ken Rosenthal, Matt Vasgersian, and a 3-0 Red Sox lead on an afternoon where John Lester seems in nothing but control. 9 up, 9 down to start the afternoon. Granderson, Reynolds, and Cano top of the order for New York, as Curtis takes strike 2 behind 0-2. Some of the big picture stuff on John Lester, and we were talking about some of the better Red Sox left-handers over the years last half inning. Lester is certainly in that conversation. In fact, today makes his 218th career starting assignment, and that passes Bruce Hurst for the second most games started by a Boston left-hander. Mel Parnell at the top of that list with 232, a total you'd assume John would get to next season. Granderson with the ball well struck out to center. Victorino turned around the wrong way, and Granderson's thinking about 3 bases. He'll be in without a play. A leadoff triple for Curtis Granderson in the 4th.
Good base running by Granderson. And you're right. You called it exactly right, Matt, with Shane Victorino being turned around. And once that happens, it's usually worth an extra base, as it is here with Curtis Granderson. Instead of being on second, he's on third. Going into second, no signs of slowing down. A leadoff triple for Granderson. Tough play for Victorino.
First base hit, first base runner of the afternoon against John Lester, and now Mark Reynolds with a chance to get the Yankees on the scoreboard. Reynolds bounced out in his first try today. Once again, the Red Sox stunt him up on the left side of the infield, playing that over shift. I mean, that just looks like an impenetrable wall on the left side of the infield. 3 Red Sox infielders to the third base side of the bag. Two balls and no strikes to Mark Reynolds. Into the shift and gobbled up by Dustin Pedroia.
How about that? They must know something. 2 balls hit on the button right at Dustin Pedroia. A 4-3 put out his first time, and now a line drive. I mean, he just scalded that ball, and Pedroia comes down with it. Everything going Boston's way so far this year, trying for their 91st win of the season.
So that keeps Granderson at bay at third base, and now it's Robinson Cano who grounded to shortstop in his first at bat. So with a runner at third and 1 away here, the Red Sox do not apply the big shift for Cano. That bouncing ball to Napoli is going to be good enough to get a run across. And it's a 3-1 ball game here in the 4th. Well, the Red Sox have really changed their look. They've done a lot of shifting today. In fact, they look different offensively. 2 sacrifice bunts for the first time ever this year. Something that we visited with John Farrell about. We asked him if they're just trying something new, or if in fact they don't think John Lester's going to need a whole lot of support today.
No, it's not a matter of John Lester not needing more runs. We're looking at different situations to maybe execute differently than maybe we've done throughout the course of the year. That's not scripted by coming into today, but the situation presents itself, and we may have to call upon that at some point as we get through this month.
Speaking of scripting things, John, there are times when a pitcher goes out there with no-hit stuff. It's certainly not a sign that he is going to get a no-hitter, but if there is ever such a thing as no-hit stuff. Lester's shown that through the first 9 guys in the order.
Well, Tim, you know, we go back to after the All-Star break where we gave him an additional 5 days of rest. And in the second half, he's gained some power. He's gained some strength, you know, particularly just with the velocity overall. But, you know, he's got a good cutter again today. And I just think the added velocity, forces that hitter to commit a little bit early. And that's where that cutter's been that much more effective.
John, thanks as always for the time. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
You know, you and I were talking about this today, Tim, the fact that when you visit with John Farrell, you just get the sense that he's in control of every situation in the clubhouse, most notably given what happened here last year, and on the field in particular in his addressing that discussion with the sacrifices today. That's what we might have guessed. You know, they want to make sure they can do that kind of thing this time of year heading into the fall. 2 balls and 2 strikes, the count to Alex Rodriguez.
We talked about it earlier about how we couldn't remember 2 consecutive innings where either of these clubs sacrificed against each other. And the Red Sox doing it in the 2nd and 3rd inning today. It's the first time in 20 years the Red Sox have done that against the Yankees. How about that? 20 years. 1993. The last time the Sox had consecutive sacrifices against New York.
My goodness. It's a full count. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Alex Rodriguez, batting with a run in, 2 away, and the base is empty in the 4th. Well, why not? You know, last Sunday, the series finale in the Bronx between these 2 teams, the Yankees avoid being swept thanks to a walk-off wild pitch. A couple of days later, the Red Sox get their first ever extra innings pinch hit grand slam home run to win a game.
By Mike Karp.
It's a series of head scratchers and firsts, and I've never seen that before, quotes. There's ball 4 to Alex Rodriguez. A reminder tonight, Fox College Saturday, presented by Geico, brings you an in-state battle between Iowa and Iowa State on Fox Sports 1. On Fox, the Cal Golden Bears look to upset number 4 Ohio State. And then in the nightcap, it's a Pac-12 battle between Oregon State and Utah back on Fox Sports 1. To find Fox Sports 1 on your provider, go to foxsports1.com.
What we were talking about earlier about the different style of play. Think about scouting the Red Sox now, where you're going in with a scouting report for the Oakland Athletics or the Texas Rangers or whomever it may be, and into the postseason and saying, well, will they bunt? Well, I don't know. I saw them bunt in 2 consecutive innings against the Yankees, first time in 20 years. Or will they hit away? Will they play the infield back? Will they play it halfway? All those things have to be considered by scouts going into the postseason, too.
First offering to Vernon Wells is popped up from Mike Napoli, and the Yankees settle with 1 in their half of the 4th. Sox continuing this afternoon. Boston on top of the Yankees 3-1, and the Red Sox send up David Ross, Xander Bogaerts, and Dustin Pedroia in the fourth. Boston striking once in the second and twice in the third. An RBI double by David Ortiz, an RBI single by Johnny Gomes most recently, making it 3-0. Yankees get one back in their half of the fourth. 0-1 to David Ross, is swung on and missed. Series finale tomorrow afternoon as a part of this wrap-up homestand for the Sox. Clay Buchholz and Ivan Nova tomorrow. The last of 19 head-to-head between these two teams as Ross is aboard with a leadoff single. Of course, the Yankees today, if you're tuning in late, playing without Alfonso Soriano, who was a very late scratch this afternoon with an injured thumb. And we talked to Joe Girardi between innings on how he got the news and what he had to do next.
Well, you go back and you come up with a new lineup. You know who's available to you at that point. You just go make a new lineup.
I guess the first thing you scratch is your head, right, Joe? I mean, with all that's happened, my gosh.
Yeah, we've been through a lot. And you just kind of roll with it. And you make the change, and you got to move on. Obviously, we miss him dearly in our lineup, but we got to move on.
Joe, getting from the fifth to the eighth, ninth inning has been an issue against the Red Sox. CC Sabathia, would you use the same word for him today that you've used for Kuroda the past couple of starts? Is gutty appropriate this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to give us everything he's got, and that's who CC is, and he's a great competitor, and he's going to try to get us deep into the game.
Joe, thanks as always. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, guys.
Sabathia, for his part, did go deep into the game in his last start, though he lost in Baltimore 4-2. He pitched into the eighth inning, 7 1/3, and threw the ball well. A 4-2 loser that night, however. Xander Bogaerts lays off a 1-1 pitch, 2 balls and a strike.
Speaking of Baltimore, what about Chris Davis? Home run number 50, the half-century mark against Toronto last night.
Yeah, Baltimore in Toronto once again this afternoon. Have certainly hung around in that postseason picture, and that, you know, you can say it almost cliche that it's going to go down to the wire, but mathematically it's going to do just that. There are too many teams still alive in that wild card race in the American League to say definitively what's going to happen. Ball 4 to Bogaerts, and it puts runners at first and second with nobody out as we check back in with Greg Amsinger at the MLB Network studios.
Hey, man, I want to go to Milwaukee. Shin-Soo Choo having a terrific year with the Cincinnati Reds. That is home run number 21. He's got another hit to go along with that. Reds are up 4-0, and they know the Washington Nationals are only 4.5 games back of that second NL wild card. And, Manny, I know you know that, too.
Greg, indeed. The Nationals are coming, and Bryce Harper has led that charge, saying they're going to have to drag us off the field, but they play in the East. In terms of the Central, it's a very tight race there. You know, everybody had kind of assumed, and I think this is what Greg was leading to, that the 2 wild card teams in the National League were going to come out of the Central. Not so fast, saying the Washington Nationals.
7 in a row last night, beating the Phillies. They had the best record in baseball since early August.
It's 0-1 rather to Dustin Pedroia as Murphy and Sabathia trying to get on the same page. Just go back 2 years. Entering play on this date, September 14th. The Cardinals were 4.5 games behind the Braves. And they eventually won the wild card, as we know. That's on the ground for Ryan. To Cano for 1. Back to Overbay, the double play. So Ross survives the double play. He moves up to third base, and with 2 gone now, it'll be up to Shane Victorino.
Look at the glove on the ground. The shortstop that consistently put his glove on the ground, always playing under the hop. For me, the best I ever saw it doing that,
Davey Concepcion.
Larry Boa.
Ah, okay.
That is a fact. Bo rarely, if ever, had a ball go through his legs. Now, he had bad hops come up on him, but the glove was always on the ground.
First offering to Shane Victorino is taken for a strike. With Ryan and Cano, that's about as slick as it gets up the middle in the big leagues.
Oh, yeah.
The current Yankee double play combination. Lined into left, a base hit for Shane Victorino. RBI number 58 for Boston's flying Hawaiian.
What makes this a big hit is CC Sabathia, I'm sure, thought he was out of the inning. He gets the double play ball and then hangs a breaking ball to Victorino. A 2-out base hit. And again, hate to wear it out, but the Red Sox are doing nothing wrong. I mean, nothing.
So now David Ortiz, who drove in a run with a double back in the third. Just look at how the RBIs are distributed this afternoon. It's a perfect example of the Red Sox balance. RBIs for Victorino, Ortiz, Gomes, and Middlebrooks. Ortiz swings and sends a drive to center field. Granderson measuring off that big center field wall. He makes the catch to retire the side. Not before the Red Sox can hang one more. We're through 4 this afternoon. 4-1 Boston. John Lester and CC Sabathia are baseball's 2 winningest left-handers since 2008. We break them down today on the Fox Sports 1 pitcher comparison presented by Fox Sports 1. Now available on all TV providers. Go to foxsports1.com to find out what channel. One faring a little better than the other, and that's John Lester, who so far so good, leads 4-1. We'll get Lyle Overbay to start things out in the 5th. Overbay, Ryan, and Ichiro Suzuki for the Yankees. Overbase struck out looking back in the second. He hit the ball hard all night yesterday against a guy that he's had some success against, John Lackey. A swing and a miss. John Lester takes care of him on 3 pitches.
That is 3 very good pitches. Curveball, fastball in, fastball away.
So with 1 gone now, Brendan Ryan digs in. John Lester, an example of a guy whose velocity has gone up incrementally, though it may be, over the last handful of starts, as Ryan loses his bat. And Ken Rosenthal in stark contrast to the velocity drop that we talked about earlier regarding CC Sabathia.
Right, Matt. And John Farrell mentioned that John Lester benefited physically from that 9-day layoff around the All-Star break. Lester told us yesterday that he also benefited mentally. He's the type of guy who, he says, rams his head against the wall, always trying to think of new ways to improve. But during that layoff, during the All-Star break, he didn't pick up a ball, didn't sit in the bullpen thinking of different things. It helped him.
Yeah, there are times where you have to back away from the game. Remember a comment by Teddy Simmons, who could flat out hit over 2,700 hits, mostly as a catcher, couldn't throw a fastball by him. But he said the thing about baseball is you have to back away from the game on a day-to-day basis, otherwise it will devour you, and it will.
There's a base hit past Dustin Pedroia. Brendan Ryan aboard, his 3rd hit of the series so far.
Brendan going to right field. Good hitting off Lester. Fastball away, took it to right.
So 1 on, 1 out for Ichiro now. I think as it relates to John Lester, you can look at him statistically in a number of different ways, of course. One of the things that jumps out at you about how he's going right now is the fact that he has not allowed a home run since the 8th of August. That covers 7+ starts. And when you're a left-handed starter and you pitch at Fenway Park, it's no small feat.
It could be a very small thing. John telling us yesterday, earlier in the year he had a tendency to drop the hand and the cutter became flat. Both the fastballs away to right-handers, fastballs inside. And all you have to do when that hand turns toward the first baseman is just make sure you keep the ball on, or keep the hand on top of the ball. It can be a very, very small thing, and in John's case it was.
0-2 to Ichiro with Ryan off first. And you bring up an interesting point there, because with information so easy to come by in sports and in baseball particularly, all you have to do is get online and you can look at somebody's pitch breakdown and then reach your own wild conclusions sometimes about a pitcher doing something too often or not often enough. And in the case of Lester, he was criticized a lot for becoming, quote, cutter happy.
That's true.
Well, when John talked to us yesterday about that, it became clear to me that it wasn't that he was cutter happy, it's that the cutter wasn't working for him.
Right.
It's not the pitch, but the quality of the pitch, in other words.
And that can be guided by just a simple movement.
Ichiro jerks that into the corner, just foul.
And from a catcher's standpoint, if you're going to remind a pitcher along those lines, you can't remind him of too many things. Often, one key is enough. We talked about Ted Simmons' line about how baseball will devour you. So will any talk about mechanics from a catcher to a pitcher. Check up from the neck up, but that stuff about when you see a catcher go out and you say he'll point with his elbow leading and stuff like that, that's too much stuff. You just can't give pitchers too much stuff when you're trying to correct what might be a flaw in a delivery. Maybe 1 point, that's enough. Juan Nieves knows that.
Still 2-2 to Ichiro. So you're saying you never went out and told Bob Gibson he wasn't getting on top of his slider?
I went 5 years without going to the mound with Gibson pitching, and I'm not kidding. Johnny Keane used to say, go out and slow him down. I said, you go out and slow him down. I'm not going out there.
Lester and Ichiro continue to battle. That's tapped to shortstop. Bogarts to Pedroia. The fancy spin and throw, not in time to get the fleet-footed Ichiro. Well, Dustin could not have made a better turn, but Ichiro's just too quick.
Well, he's leaving the box when he hit the ball. He's gone toward first base. No chance to turn it. You know, Boston got their fill, if you'll excuse me, of talking prolongedly about Bob Gibson when he won Game 1 and Game 7 in the '67 series. I saw something in that series that I've never heard of before. After 163 games, Carl Yastrzemski, who went 0 for 4 in Game 1, had the batting cage rolled out from center field, and he took extra hitting after 163 games that year.
Wow.
The season and the first game of the World Series. And it's only appropriate for Yastrzemski to have his own statue next to Ted Williams here at Fenway, and that'll happen within the next month.
Yeah, that's right. Statues have become all the rage around Major League Baseball. But in the case of Yaz, I agree with you. It's not only appropriate, but perhaps a little overdue.
My feelings exactly.
0-2 the count to the rookie catcher J.R. Murphy. A swing and a miss, a pair of strikeouts in a scoreless fifth authored by John Lester. One of the Red Sox September stars, Mike Napoli, leads things off in the fifth. 4-1 Boston. Telecast is sponsored by Chevrolet. Check out the all-new Chevy Silverado at the Silverado versus All event. A beautiful afternoon on the Charles River and inside Fenway Park. Back with Tim McCarver and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian, Mike Napoli lead things off in the Boston fifth. Red Sox on top 4-1, and Napoli's played a role. A couple of singles and a run scored today. It'll be Napoli, Gomes, and Nava against CC Sabathia. Time for the player profile, brought to you by AT&T, helping you do what you do even better. AT&T Rethink Possible. Mike Napoli this season against the Yankees has done some of his finest work. 6 home runs and 18 runs batted in. Only a handful of players as a Red Sox have hit more home runs in a single season against the Yankees than Napoli's 6 this year. And it's like a Hall of Fame roll call. Jimmy Fox, Jackie Jensen, and Manny Ramirez had a couple of big years against New York in terms of home runs. Count to 3-0 now. Mike Napoli will, at least at this point, be considered a free agent at season's end. That is, unless the Red Sox get back in there and roll up their sleeves with his representatives starting right now. The price of poker went up for Mike when he met a bonus in his contract on Thursday. There's ball 4, and he leads off with a base on balls. Remember that Napoli had signed a 3-year, $39 million deal over the winter, and the Red Sox backed away from that after Napoli failed a physical and was found to have a degenerative joint condition in his hip. So the sides got back together and agreed on a 1-year contract for $5 million that had a lot of incentive bonus money in there. Napoli has hit those incentives. Johnny Gomes batting now, and the first offering fouled away. But it was a very productive free agent winter for the Boston Red Sox, adding not only Mike Napoli, but this man, Johnny Gomes.
We said it last Saturday. If John Farrell is the manager of the year, Ben Sherrington might be the executive of the year. Not might be, is, in my opinion. Because of all he had to do after that disaster of a year last year.
0-2 the count to Johnny Gomes. So the plan to rebuild the Red Sox was as much between the lines based as it was clubhouse based. And with a player like Johnny Gomes, who we're watching bat here, yes, he can do a lot of things offensively. He can play a couple of different spots in the field. But he has always been known as a winning intangibles type player. That's out to right center field, and it's going to split Ichiro and Granderson. Napoli's being held at third.
Yeah, the number of outs dictate whether you're held or not. With nobody out, you just can't take the chance if you're Brian Butterfield, the third base coach for the Red Sox. Any bobble in right center field by Ichiro or Cano as the cutoff man, and Napoli tries to score. But with nobody out, you just can't make the move. Now the Yankees forced to play the infield in. We said in the opening they need a miracle a day, and so far in this game they haven't had one.
Jabba Chamberlain getting up to warm in the Yankee bullpen. And here's Daniel Nava now. The infield comes in, as Tim indicated. Runners at second and third with nobody out. 4 walks today by CC Sabathia. Not including Napoli, who's on at third via the base on balls. None of the previous 3 have come across to score. I think in addition to the velocity decrease, the walk ratio increase for CC Sabathia is a bit concerning for New York. In his previous 7 seasons, CC averaged just over 2 walks per 9 innings. That number is closer to 3 walks per 9 in 2013. Might not sound like a big deal, but I think most would tell you, certainly Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, that that's a sizable jump.
That'll go away when his arm gets strong. He won't be fighting himself and forcing strikes. He'll be throwing them.
Now the line softly to center field. Granderson's there to make the catch. Napoli tags up. Here's the throw to the plate. It's too late, and it's 5-1 Boston. Five RBIs by 5 different Red Sox players this afternoon.
Granderson with the throw that hit the other side of the mound and kind of skittered toward home. Murphy did what he could. Napoli went around him to score the 5th Red Sox run.
So now Will Middlebrooks, who has an RBI to his credit today. David Ross waiting on deck. Boston has scored a run in each of their last 4 innings now, starting in the 2nd, as it goes to 2 balls and no strikes on Will Middlebrooks. And we've been talking about this Beard story around the Red Sox, not just today, but for the past couple of weeks. And you'll notice, I don't know if Will's trying or if he abandoned the ship or what the deal is, but he's one of the few without Ken Rosenthal. We go to you for the real hard-hitting information here. What more can you give us on Middlebrooks' beard?
Matt, he chose to abandon ship. He had to when he was sent to the minors on June 25th. There's an unspoken rule in the minors. You don't have to be clean-shaven, but you can't act all big league and have a beard. So Will abandoned his 2-month growth, shaved his beard, and obviously had to start over. He knew at the time it was not a good thing. He said it hurt him because he knew when he came back his teammates would be all over him.
Yeah, at least he can grow one. Xander Bogaerts can't. He's only 20 years old. I mean, take him all year to grow one.
20 years old is no excuse to not grow a beard.
Well,
Tim,
that's
with all due
true.
respect.
No, I forgot.
You probably haven't spent a lot of time in the Armenian community.
Well, it's been a lot longer for me since I was 20 than it was for you.
3-2. Here's the payoff pitch home, and it's fouled away. Well, there's a little template that's on the Red Sox website right now on MLB.com, and it gives you a chance as a fan to plug your own headshot into one of the following beard templates. Each of them has a name, as you can see. I'm a big fan of the freshwater myself because I'm not even sure what that means. Middlebrooks shoots another pitch foul. Pretty easy to tell based on the template just who's who. You've got, well, you'll have it. You'll have Jared Saltalamacchia. He's got the flowing locks and a beard more befitting somebody in the back of a horse and wagon in Amish country churning his own butter. The 3-2. Middlebrooks hanging around. See, there's Jared in the top left. Pretty easy to pick him out of that group.
True.
And it's on MLB.com, the Red Sox page on MLB.com. So 3 balls and 2 strikes. It remains to Will Middlebrooks. Boston looking for their first multiple run inning. Swing and a miss. Two gone for Sabathia in the 5th.
Middlebrooks pulling off that pitch a little bit. A little more experience, you learn to go with pitches like that and protect the outside part of the plate with 2 strikes.
So now David Ross with 2 gone. Ross has walked, singled, and scored a run today. we talked about this with Joe Girardi earlier. One of the biggest problems for the Yankees down the stretch has been the 6th, 7th, perhaps at times 8th inning component to their bullpen. It blew up yesterday, as it has the last number of days against the Red Sox. All the more important for CC Sabathia to go as deep into the afternoon as possible. He's at 86 pitches. You rarely get concerned with pitch counts for a workhorse like CC. And I feel guilty sometimes even talking pitch count with Sabathia, but it is a fact, and it's something they do monitor. Two balls and a strike to David Ross.
Yeah, while the Red Sox have 6 solid starters, the Yankees need more out of their starters because of what the bullpen has done here in September. The highest earned run average in the American League. The most home runs allowed, 12 in 13 games. So out of necessity, the Yankees have to depend on their starters more than their guys in the bullpen, and that is so uncharacteristic of a Yankee bullpen of late.
Three balls and a strike to count to David Ross. Tomorrow is the regular season finale between these two teams, and as such, it is very possibly Mariano's last appearance at Fenway Park. And Mariano Rivera will be honored tomorrow as a part of a pregame ceremony here in Boston. Something that's been happening throughout the league in this farewell tour season. A big rip and a miss, and it's full now, 3-2 to David Ross. Sabathia trying to limit the damage at just a run. Gomes at second with 2 away. The full count pitch home to David Ross is swung on and missed, and CC does just that. Boston does tack on another, and through 5 this afternoon, it's now 5-1 Red Sox. John Lester has been a big part of this afternoon's game summary, brought to you by Domino's. Oh, yes, we did. And John Lester in the midst of the kind of afternoon where he might not need a whole lot more run support. 5 innings of work. He's given up just the 1 run on 2 hits and struck out 4. Boston has benefited from RBIs by 5 different starting players this afternoon, as Curtis Granderson leads off the Yankee half of the 6th. Granderson, Reynolds, and Cano the top of the order once again for New York. Granderson with a drive into the right field corner. Navo go track it down as Curtis Granderson looks at his 2nd extra base hit in his last 2 at-bats.
Forgotten in this whole season for the Yankees is the job that Kevin Long, the hitting instructor, does. And I think the one guy on the Yankees that he's helped more than anybody is Curtis Granderson in his approach to left-handed pitching. Since 2011, Curtis Granderson has 32 home runs against left-handed pitching. That is tied with Jay Bruce of the Cincinnati Reds, who has as many. That's right-handers and left-handers. For 2 left-handers to lead is unusual.
A really strange-looking list there. As Mark Reynolds sends a fly ball out to center that Victorino corrals. And Reynolds is hitless in his first ever start batting in the number 2 hole. He is nobody's definition of a number 2 hitter. However, pressed into duty today as we revisit one of the big storylines this afternoon. Alfonso Soriano, a late scratch with a sore right thumb, and he is listed as day-to-day moving forward. So now Robinson Cano, who has driven in the only run of the afternoon for New York so far today. And the first pitch to Cano is taken for a strike. This is the time of year that Robinson Cano shines. In fact, in a historical sense. Since 1960, Robbie Cano's .334 career average in September and October ranks as the 6th best ever in the major leagues. Not just this year, you've got to go back to 1960. A top 10 September-October batting average for a guy who's used to playing in big games this time of season. He did all he could last night in Game 1 of the series, a perfect 4 for 4 with 2 runs batted in. It was not enough, however, as the Red Sox claimed the opener.
Of course, 1960 was a 154-game schedule. So the October games were World Series games. The dramatic World Series between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the New York Yankees in 1960. Won by Bill Mazeroski in Game 7. 9th inning. Unbelievable.
That misses the outside, and it's now 3 balls and a strike.
That 1 home run, the biggest reason, the biggest, not the only, that Bill Mazeroski was inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's how dramatic that home run was.
The only Game 7 World Series walk-off home run ever. Three and 2 to Cano. Well, you could line up Robbie Cano's numbers with a number of Hall of Famers. Rogers Hornsby owns the most extra base hits by a second baseman through his age 30 season. Cano is next on the list with 601. As the price of poker going up for Robbie Cano every day. Another in a notable free agent class at season's end. The 3-2 pitch is bounced up the middle. Bogarts ranges to his left and makes the play.
Not that easy.
Today's telecast is sponsored by Taco Bell's new fiery Doritos Locos Tacos. Live Más. And by AT&T, helping you do what you do even better. AT&T, rethink possible.
Xander Bogaerts, the heir apparent at a very young age, shortstop. Jose Iglesias, interestingly, with the Detroit Tigers now. But look at this play. That is a tough, tough play. And he gets Cano. But Jose Iglesias may be the Rookie of the Year in the American League. The only Rookie of the Year to ever have been traded during the year in which he's the Rookie of the Year.
There really is not a clear-cut favorite for American League Rookie of the Year. Not a slam dunk guy that you point to and say it's his to lose.
That's true.
Iglesias is going to get a lot of consideration. 1-0 to Alex Rodriguez is in for a strike.
Red Sox obtained Jake Peavy in that trade. Avisail Garcia going to the White Sox, the three main characters in that three-way trade.
Changeup has Alex Rodriguez a little fouled up at the plate, and it's 1-2 now.
Yeah, he didn't look good with that swing.
Vernon Wells waiting next. Lester trying to strand a leadoff double here in the 6th. Alex Rodriguez making another start at DH this afternoon. DH didn't bat at second yesterday. We asked Joe Girardi before the game if there was a plan to get him back on the field at third base tomorrow for the finale. And Joe told us we'll have to wait and see how Alex feels tomorrow. Truly a day-by-day thing with A-Rod. They were concerned with the way Alex Rodriguez ran the bases last night. A play in the middle of the game in which a healthy A-Rod may have been able to score. Instead, he got into third a little gingerly, indicating that hip, that whole lower half, the gait, if you will, is not quite right yet. On the ground to third, Middlebrooks has it, and the leadoff double is left stranded.
Arlington, Bartolo Colon in a jam no longer. 96 miles an hour upstairs to Mitch Moreland. Gets him out of the 4th. Top 6 there. A's up 1-0 to Milwaukee. Carlos Gomez and the Blue Crew playing spoiler again, at least trying to. This RBI single will make it 4-2. They tack on another Brewers only down a run at Miller Park this afternoon in the top of the 6th. Let's get you back to Boston and rejoin Matt Vasgersian and Tim McCarver.
Greg, thanks. As we take a look at that National League wild card picture with Xander Bogaerts leading things off in the Boston half of inning number 6, and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh right there with the 2 seats if the season were to end today. Washington gaining ground, as Greg was talking about earlier, just 4.5 back in the NL wildcard picture.
It is so much harder to get to the World Series today as it was 50 years ago, when you only had to win your league to be one of 2 teams in the World Series. Now, instead of winning 4 games in postseason, you have to win 11 or 12.
Tournament style.
Yeah, it's a lot tougher.
Ball and 2 strikes. The count to Xander Bogaerts leading things off in the 6th. Bogaerts, Pedroia, and Victorino against CC Sabathia. Swing and a miss, and there's 1 away, and that's 3 straight strikeouts for CC. A reminder to catch all the action of the 2013 Major League Baseball postseason right here on Fox, TBS, and MLB Network starting October 1st.
And Matt, we touched on it briefly about Carl Yastrzemski, the statue that will be erected in his honor. Long overdue in our opinion. And I keep looking at where the batting cage is kept in center field. And I have to give you the tag of what Yastrzemski did after taking extra batting practice after 163 games. He went 0 for 4 against Gibson in game 1. And in game 2, after the batting practice day, the Red Sox won. Yastrzemski went 3 for 4 with 2 home runs. 1 off Dick Hughes, 1 off Joe Horner. So it worked for Yaz in game 2.
Just a couple rounds of extra hitting.
Just
that's
a
all
couple
it
of
took.
rounds. But boy, I'll tell you, you talk about admiration soaring for a guy. When we saw that, we had filtered out of the clubhouse and we're waiting for the buses with our families and stuff like that. And number 8 was out there taking extra hitting. And I mean, he was as locked in as he was during the game. Remarkable.
3 balls and a strike to count to Dustin Pedroia. And of course, when we talk about the long overdue statue, we say that knowing that the Red Sox, perhaps as well, if not better than any other organization, do such a great job marrying their rich franchise history with what's happening on the field today. Pedroia pops at the infield for Ryan. And there are 2 gone. John Henry, Larry Lucchino, Sam Kennedy, the front office group here, they do such a good job. They have really recrafted Fenway Park over the last number of years. Adding seating to the top of the monster some years ago. That right field porch is different than the way it lay back in the day, if you will. And Fenway Park, once thought to be an albatross to the future financial stake of the Red Sox, has been turned into something that will never be talked about being replaced, not in the terms of the immediate future. Strike 1 to Shane Victorino. Shane has singled this afternoon. He's also sacrificed and driven in a run. When the postscript to this game is written, it is unlikely to contain much ado about the 2 sacrifice hits or 2 sacrifices by the Red Sox today.
Yeah.
For the first time, they've sacrificed twice in a game. Just some of the fine line stuff happening in the Red Sox dugout today. Still 0-2 to Victorino. Well, Shane digging back in from the right side. He's had so many brushbacks and been drilled so much from the right side of the plate.
14 times thus far and counting.
And you can see why almost every time he checks his swing in there. He doesn't give any ground. He dives a bit. Not to mention, he digs in close to the plate to begin with as a right-handed hitter.
It's one thing to dive against a left-hander also, and to dive in against a right-hander, because that ball's coming in from right-handed pitching.
The day that he abandoned switch hitting for the foreseeable future in early August began a run of his being hit, the likes of which we just haven't seen in quite a while. Early August, he gave up the left side because of the hamstring injury, and he's been drilled a number of times since. That's into the right field corner. Second hit of the afternoon for Shane Victorino.
Victorino right to the left of pesky pole. I'm always amazed at this ballpark. That would have the monster 37 feet tall in left field, and the right field fence right to the right of the 380 sign 3 feet tall. So for sake of better terms, the monster is in left and mini-me in right. There's mini-me right next to the 380 sign.
Victorino's running. But CC didn't pay a lick of attention to him at second base, and Shane said, if you're going to give me that third base bag, I'll take it. His 21st swipe of the year.
Almost walking to third base.
Well, that's with a left-handed hitter in there. The old adage is, if you're not completely sure that you can get there from stealing third, don't go. Well, I think Shane was pretty sure he had it stolen there. 1 ball and 1 strike to count to David Ortiz. Red Sox trying to score a run in what would be their 5th consecutive inning. And now Ortiz is behind 1-2. Ortiz, one of the 5 Boston players responsible for driving in a run this afternoon. That RBI double came in the 3rd, and it looked just like the RBI double he had last night. This one against Hiroki Kuroda. Inside out into the left field corner, and against the left-hander today. Same swing, same approach, same result.
Same location.
The next 1-2 home is sent into left center field. Granderson closing ground and making a fine catch at the knees to prevent any further runs from scoring. Still 5-1 Boston as we return to Fenway after a word from your local Fox station. Around Fenway Park, where we take a look at the folks celebrating the Red Sox and the Yankees this afternoon, courtesy of the Fox Sports 1 Fan Cam. We see fans who are excited about America's new sports network. John Lester back to work and on top 5-1. Bearded things just getting creepy. It's like what was happening in L.A. a few years ago when Manny Ramirez, everybody coming to the ballpark looking like a pirate with dreadlocks.
Manny Wood.
Say no more. A ball and a strike to Vernon Wells, leading off the Yankee half of the 7th. Wells, Overbay, and Ryan. Vernon Wells 0 for 2 so far this afternoon, and thrust into the starting lineup when it was learned that Alfonso Soriano was unable to go. 2 balls and 2 strikes. It's wild how you can talk about a September matchup between pennant contenders and still not talk about enough healthy bodies, despite the fact that rosters are expanded. 1 out here in the 7th. We check back in with Greg Amsinger at the MLB Network studios.
Matty, thank you. Back to Miller Park. Joey Votto giving the Reds the insurance runs they needed. It was a 4-3 ball game. That is a 2-run shot on a 3-1 pitch. His 23rd of the year. Votto stepping up for Dusty Baker, doubling up the Brewers in the bottom of the 6th. Matty, back to you.
Greg, thanks. I'm not sure if Greg knows the answer to this, or Tim, or maybe Ken Rosenthal. Is that the highest we've seen Joey Votto's socks ever? What's going on in Cincinnati? Or with the Reds in Milwaukee, I should say, most appropriately. I don't remember seeing the stockings yanked up that high on the former NL MVP.
Going back to their original name, the Cincinnati Red Stockings.
0-1 the count to Lyle Overbay, behind 0-2 now. A couple of lively fastballs.
There we go.
Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Has Joey always worn him up that high?
I don't think so. I don't remember seeing that.
I mean, far be it for me to pay attention to anything relevant. That's the thing that catches my eye. We got a great game out here, and I'm talking about Joey Votto's socks.
Yeah, after he just homered.
Rosenthal, can you set us straight on this?
Matt, I don't have precise measures of sock length, but I can tell you that the Reds beat writers on Twitter were noting that Joey's socks were rather high today. Hey, bottom line, big game for the Reds. Everyone keeps talking about the Nats coming on. 4.5 games back with 16 to play or whatever it is. That's a lot of ground to make up. All the Reds need to do is win.
Yeah, I think that's the much more relevant talking point, as Overbay is caught looking on a called strike 3. Somebody in the NL Central is going to have to go into complete 64 Phillies nosedive mode in order for the Nationals to really get back into this thing. Between the Reds, the Cardinals, and the Pirates, yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to happen. There's Brendan Ryan now with 2 out and the base is empty. For some reason I mentioned the 64 Phillies and Tim McCarver started taking off jewelry.
You know, I did. It's a funny thing that happened that year. We won it on the last day of the season after the Phillies, who were up 6.5 games. With 12 games to play, we had 13. And the last day of the season, had we not won that day, the Phillies were beating Cincinnati in Cincinnati. We beat the Mets. Had we lost to the Mets, it would have been the only 3-way tie in the history of baseball.
Wow. And I don't know that they had the complicated advanced math formulas for tiebreakers back then.
We flipped a coin, and the Phillies won the odd man. So they were off the first round. We were to go to Cincinnati, play the Reds, and the winner of that game played the Phillies in one game. So if you were either with the Reds or the Cardinals, then you had to win 2 in a row to win it.
Wow.
So
it was beautifully simple back then. Might not have been fair to flip a coin, but that's the best they could do. These days, the tiebreaker scenarios are so complicated. The only one able to solve all that stuff and figure it out is perhaps Craig Breslow, the Yale dual major. It's a bouncing ball to shortstopper Xander Bogaerts and a 1-2-3 seventh authored by John Lester. Got to know advanced biochemistry to figure out the tiebreakers. Sponsored by AT&T, helping you do what you do even better. AT&T Rethink Possible. And by Chevrolet. Check out the all-new Chevy Silverado at the Silverado versus All event. There's one of the great Red Sox from recent past, Mike Lowell. Played such a big role in the second of the World Series titles in the 2000s. And if you want a template for a guy that did things right his entire career.
Thorough professional in every way.
Played with a high level of integrity, not to mention he was really good. That might be the underreported part of Mike Lowell's career story. Jabba Chamberlain takes over in the bottom half of the seventh. Chamberlain opens against Mike Napoli. Napoli, Gomes, and Nava with the Red Sox on top 5-1. So CC Sabathia gone after 6. He leaves on the losing end of what would be a decision right now. Single runs in the second, fourth, and fifth. Red Sox got 2 in the third. Jabba never had a lead to work with this afternoon. Well, this has been the part of the ball game, as we've discussed today, Tim, where the Yankees have been most vulnerable. That early to middle relief corps.
Of course, especially a game like last night, because when the relievers took over, it was a tie game at 4-4. And the big blow, the grand slam home run by Jared Saltalamacchia. And I mean, he crushed it.
A strike on the corner, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes now to Mike Napoli, who's been on base in all 3 of his plate appearances today. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Joe Girardi would just love to have an opportunity with a healthy bullpen to manage by a formula. Your 7th inning guy with a lead, your 8th inning guy with a lead, and then Mariano Rivera. Just has not been there for the Yankees the last week and a half. Rivera last worked on the 12th in Baltimore. As we mentioned earlier, the Red Sox will honor him tomorrow prior to Game 3 of the series in what could be Rivera's last ever appearance at Fenway Park. Still full, 3 balls and 2 strikes. There was renewed discussion on the internet, on the talk radio circuit around the New York Metroplex that Rivera might be able to be coaxed into another year of service. He quickly put that to bed.
Yeah, he did.
He announced his intentions to make this his final year in spring training and plans on living by that. And there's ball 4 to Napoli. Well, a lot of teams in Major League Baseball have paid tribute to Mariano Rivera in his final visit to their city. The mementos, if you will. The Indians gave him a gold record, what with the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame being in Cleveland. Twins gave him a rocking chair made of broken bats.
Great gift.
The Rangers, a pair of cowboy boots. John Wetland, a former teammate, did the presentation. The Padres gave him a beach cruiser. The bad news is he had to give a couple of teammates a ride back to the hotel on it. Still not sure how he got the sandcastle home from St. Pete. And what gift will the Red Sox bestow upon the all-time closer tomorrow? We're told through sources that it's going to be something terrific. We'd expect nothing less.
Yeah, it may sound mundane. We just talked about Mike Lowell and the respect that all the players that played against him, the thorough professional that he was, and the respect everyone had for him. Well, I mean, you could make a case that Mariano Rivera is certainly in the top 10 of the most respected baseball players in the history of the game.
A ball and a strike to count to Johnny Gomes, batting with a runner aboard and nobody out in the 7th. Maybe intrepid reporter Ken Rosenthal has some insight as to what the gift giving will be like tomorrow. Kenny, you have any idea?
Matt, I don't have any sources on that one, but I can tell you this, that Mariano in his final season is certainly emptying the tank. Over a 5-day span this week, 84 pitches, 5 1/3 innings. He hadn't done that much over a period that long in more than 8 years.
Wow.
And it just shows you how they've been using him and how much he is willing to contribute still at age 43.
Well, saving nothing for next year, and that's likely one of the ways Rivera looks at it. But you can understand, given how effective he's been again this season, why that discussion keeps popping up among Yankee fans. Hey, can we get Mo back next year? Especially when you watch Jabba Chamberlain walk back-to-back batters in the 7th. There is no heir apparent down there to close ball games in his absence. David Robertson's been given that opportunity in the past.
He could still fill it. Of course, you know, those shoes that have to be filled are unfillable, if that's the word. David Robertson was so effective in the 8th inning leading up to Rivera. Done a terrific job over the last 5-6 years. But that's a very, very, you know, it hadn't been reported enough.
Daniel Nava lines the first pitch right to Lyle Overbay, who gets to first and doubles off Johnny Gomes.
It's one of those situations where you're hanging out to dry or being hung out to dry, and Overbay makes the play. Nothing that Gomes could do. Funny game, isn't it? You walk 2, you get a line drive double play, and you're 2/3 of the way out of the inning.
So now Will Middlebrooks with Napoli at second and 2 away. Middlebrook's drove in a run in the second, the first run of the game on a ground ball to short. He is hitless this afternoon and takes strike one. Quickly behind 0-2. When the Yankees bat in the 8th, they'll have the bottom of the order, Ichiro Murphy and then Curtis Granderson. And Granderson has been the lone bright spot on the scorecard for Joe Girardi today. Middlebrooks goes down swinging, back-to-back walks open the inning against Jabba Chamberlain, but the Red Sox are turned away. Still 5-1 Boston. Ace for your chance to win a sports room makeover. Back with Tim McCarver and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian at Fenway Park, and the day has belonged to John Lester and the Red Sox. He'll go to work against Ichiro Suzuki to lead things off in the 8th. It'll be Suzuki followed by J.R. Murphy and Curtis Granderson. Just the one run against John Lester this afternoon, and it came in the 4th after Curtis Granderson tripled and Robinson Cano drove him in with a ground ball to first. That is the only blemish on an otherwise near perfect scorecard. He's going to stay clean here to start the 8th as Ichiro bounces out to second. John Lester currently at just over 200 innings of work this year, at 202 innings to be specific. That means since 2008, he has thrown 5 seasons of 200+ innings. Only CC Sabathia and James Shields have done it in more seasons during that span. He defines the term workhorse, often overused in baseball. Here's J.R. Murphy now with one away. Rookie catcher making his first ever major league start this afternoon is hitless to show for the day thus far. To the bottom of the the order in particular has really provided little resistance to Lester today. The bottom half, 5 through 9. The only base hit is Brendan Ryan's 5th inning 1-out single. Two balls and a strike. Granderson waits next. He's got the triple and double today. 2 of the 3 hits and the only for extra bases. So if John Lester gets through the 8th, this will be back-to-back 8-inning starts against the Yankees. And it would mean 3 of his last 6 have gone at least 8 innings.
That's impressive. You know, when you're thinking about the playoffs and the Red Sox, it seems to me that the only thing that can hurt the Red Sox in the playoffs is a long layoff. If you get a long layoff, that could be a problem, because this team has so much momentum, more than any other major league team. I mean, they're playing so well. These pitchers are pitching so well. And they've got 6 starting pitchers to begin with. A lot of people have talked about that 8th inning guy maybe being Ryan Dempster, who is one of the starters now, but has experience in the bullpen. He had 87 saves in 2005, 6, and 7. So I would say that that Rhino would probably be the most likely candidate to go to the bullpen. Could be a guy like Brandon Workman, but he doesn't have the experience that Dempster does.
A 1-out base runner now for Curtis Granderson, back to the top of the order. It's a good problem to have, and as we check in with Ken Rosenthal here, I guess the fact that Clay Buchholz was so strong in his return to the rotation has really put a lot of things in play for Boston.
No question, Matt. And frankly, with the bullpen, what's amazing is that it is an issue at all. You go back to the start of the season, they had Joel Hanrahan, Andrew Bailey, Alfredo Aceves. They thought Daniel Bard would come around. From the left side, they had Andrew Miller. And yet, all of the injuries really took a toll, to the point where now it is a question, their right-handed setup relief. Tazawa, Workman, and as Tim said, maybe Dempster.
Granderson lifts a fly ball into the opposite field for Johnny Gomes. And that's the 2nd out of the inning. Hey, a reminder, Monday on Fox Sports 1, experience the pennant race as it happens on an all-new episode of Mission October. He's the reigning Cy Young Award winner, but can David Price pitch the Rays into a wild card spot? Mission October, Rays of Hope, is all new Monday, only on Fox Sports 1. To find Fox Sports 1, go to foxsports1.com.
Ken Rosenthal just mentioned one of the sadder things that has happened in the game as far as player personnel is concerned over the last 10 years or maybe longer, and that's the saga of Daniel Bard, picked up by the Chicago Cubs and Theo Epstein, thinking that perhaps he can find some of the magic that made him one of the most exciting young pitchers in the game as early as last year.
A wave and a miss by Mark Reynolds. Well, he was certainly the closer of the future, if not a contributor of the future. Back in the days when Jonathan Papelbon had the job anchored down, closing games for Boston. Let's face it, that was part of the motivation to let Papelbon walk as a free agent to Philadelphia.
Sure.
Thought that role would be in good hands in-house.
And the Red Sox break spring training, I think, last year, and in doubt as to whether to have Daniel start or relieve. He's caught in between. He's sent down. And for the most part, has to work his way back up to being a prospect. It's tough, boy.
It's a real thing, too. I know that's been discussed regarding Jabba Chamberlain and the Yankees. The fact that you know they played with his role so often early in his development, and there are a lot of people that feel like he really suffered from that he deserved a better shake in one role or the other.
I'm one that feels that he deserved a better shake in that deal.
The 2-2 home to Mark Reynolds. A chopper back to Lester. Yeah, why not a great play to end the inning? John Lester's star shining brightly in Boston this afternoon. Sponsored by Fox Sports 1. To find your channel, go to foxsports1.com. And by Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. The familiar refrains of Sweet Caroline here in Boston. A 5-1 Red Sox lead. The Sox trying to make it 2 in a row to open this series with rival New York. And the Yankees go back to the bullpen for the bottom half of the 8th. Matt Daly appearing in his 3rd game with the Yankees since what is technically a September call-up. And here in the 8th inning, he'll get the bottom of the order, followed by leadoff hitter Dustin Pedroia. David Ross, Xander Bogaerts, and then Pedroia for the Red Sox. The old adage, you don't know the players without a program, rings particularly true when you talk about the Yankee bullpen. Brian Cashman and company doing what they can to keep the ship righted out there to try to get the ball to the 9th inning, and they've made a lot of changes of late. Mike Zagurski signed as a free agent earlier in the week. Brett Marshall comes up in AAA on September 1st. I mean, they were calling guys up from AAA after the AAA season in Scranton Wilkes-Barre had come to a close. Players were already back home.
On the beach or wherever.
A wave and a miss by David Ross. Matt Daly among those called up recently, made his Yankee debut on September 6th. Dellin Betances, still considered a top prospect. Cesar Cabral, who missed an entire season after arm surgery, he made his major league debut earlier this month. A among the fresh faces out there. A swing and a miss by David Ross. And there's one gone for Daly in the 8th. Next Sunday on Fox, if you think you know Mike Tyson, think again, as Being Mike Tyson takes you inside the life of one of the most controversial, enigmatic, and successful sports icons of our time. Being Mike Tyson premieres next Sunday on Fox. Check your local listings. One gone for Xander Bogaerts.
Can't help but wonder, a lot has been said about September call-ups and expanding a roster. What if that were not the case? You wonder what the Yankees would have done. Where do they go if they don't have the September call-ups?
Boy, that's a great question. If you're locked into a, say, 28-man roster, or whatever the number would be.
Or 25, or like it is until September 1st.
Right. Somebody would have to change roles. 2 balls and a strike to Xander Bogaerts. Technically a AAA call-up this year. Bogaerts called up and made his first appearance at the age of 20. Well, Alfonso Soriano is on the bench. We're not sure if he's available. Again, a late scratch to the starting lineup today because of a thumb injury. And Bogaerts is caught looking a called strike 3. He does not look as though he would be available.
No.
Something dramatic were to happen in the top of the 9th, and the Yankees needed somebody to bat as a potential tying run. Who knows? But at this moment, there doesn't look like there's any urgency down there. Not as it relates to Soriano. 2 gone now for Dustin Pedroia.
And Matt, you also have to wonder what direction the Yankees are going to take as far as free agency this year. Will they make a real run at Robinson Cano, knowing that the Dodgers are primed to make a run for Cano, and a bidding war could ensue? Their minor league system is not strong for the next couple of years. Maybe some guys who be ready in 3 years or 4 years, but from what I understand, the 1 or 2 year guys are not there. So how do you approach free agency?
Boy, trying to get under that salary cap as the
Yankees
Yankees
at the same
are trying
time,
to do,
right? Exactly.
Waiting to hear if Alex Rodriguez is going to win his appeal. That shaves some $30 million off of next year's books if it were to happen. If he has to serve the suspension, that is.
Right.
Boy, there are a lot of things that need to happen here in the Bronx that we just don't know the answers to at this point. A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Dustin Pedroia. And a comebacker for Daly. That'll take us to the top of the 9th. Last licks for the Yankees on the road this afternoon, trailing by 4. our family's only Yankee fan. This poor kid.
Not that in pinstripes, no less.
He doesn't. He just wants his peanuts in his juice box and wants to go home and watch SpongeBob today. Brother's making fun of him. Pitching change first of the afternoon by the Red Sox. John Lester was terrific this afternoon, and he yields in the ninth to fellow southpaw Franklin Morales.
Franklin has only been on the active list for a couple of months, on the DL for the first 3.5 months till just after the All-Star break. He's an outside shot for being a left-handed reliever in the postseason. Or Felix DeBron, who has started all year for the Red Sox.
Robinson Cano, Alex Rodriguez, and Vernon Wells will have the final sets of say-sos against the Red Sox today. Cano is hitless. He did drive in New York's only run of the day back in the fourth. Tomorrow, the regular season finale between Boston and New York. It'll be Ivan Nova for New York.
Boy, was that a knee buckler. You throw a few of those to left-handed hitters, and that'll make John Farrell think.
0-2 from Franklin Morales. John Farrell has Clay Buchholz tomorrow, opposing Yankee right-hander Ivan Nova. A ball and 2 strikes to Robinson Cano. After the conclusion of this series tomorrow, the Red Sox will have a day off, one of their 3 remaining days off in the final 2 weeks of the season. I mean, you talk about a nice, friendly, soft landing. Then the Orioles come here for 3, Toronto for 3, and then the Red Sox embark on their final road trip of the year, 2 in Denver and 3 at Camden Yards with the Orioles as Cano bounces out to the right side of the infield. Time for our Burger King plays of the game, brought to you by Burger King, where taste is king. And for this, a little roll of John Lester's heroics this afternoon. 8 strong innings, leaving in very good shape toward his 14th win of the year. Finishing it off with a great play on a comebacker to end the 8th. John Lester terrific this afternoon. 8 innings, allowed the 3 hits, only the 1 earned run, struck out 5. A part of a good body of work down the stretch. His last 8 starts have been sensational. Here's Alex Rodriguez now. He takes a strike.
You have individuals on the Red Sox and the team in general ending the season on all cylinders. And normally you say you kind of hedge when you're talking about the postseason, because you say anything can happen. It's a new season. It's the best 3 out of 5, or it's a single game to begin with, then the best 3 out of 5, then the best 4 out of 7. But rarely has a team gone into the postseason with as much confidence as this team is exuding right now.
The Yankees are down to their final out this afternoon. "15 ground ball outs in this game. 1 out remaining." Vernon Wells stands between the Red Sox and a victory this afternoon, what would be Boston's 91st of the year. Both teams, the Yankees in particular, will be doing some scoreboard watching this afternoon. They'll mix that into their college football program, I'm sure. They'll be watching, among others, the Rays, who are in Minneapolis again tonight with Matt Moore on the mound. But one of the things the Yankees and all the other teams chasing Tampa Bay have going for them is that the Rays do not have a day off between now and the end of the regular season. Tampa started play just a game and a half up on Cleveland and 2 up on these Yankees for that second wild card spot. It is indeed headed for the final week of the season.
Cleveland using 8 pitchers yesterday against the White Sox and giving up 1 run. How unusual is that?
Yeah. Terry Francona doing a great job pressing all the right buttons yesterday, as he has all year.
If Cleveland gets to the postseason, you can add Terry Francona into that group. Managers of the year.
The 1-2 pitch is popped up in the infield. Rookie shortstop Xander Bogaerts makes the catch, and the Red Sox have made it 2 in a row over rival New York. 5-1 the final score at Fenway today. Coming up next, we'll send you back to the MLB Network studios for post-game coverage right after these messages.